1.4 absolute value. I can find absolute value.
Can you find absolute value now?
Yes.
If you're a little confused, is that okay?
Yes.
Because that's what the assignment's for, and that actually means you're learning, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So absolute value, everybody, can you read the definition on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3.
Absolute value. This is the number from 0 on a number line.
That was actually pretty bad, but okay. It's the distance a number is from 0 on a number line. Okay, an absolute value is always going to end up being positive because we can never have a negative distance. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Remember Ankur and I talking about how far apart we are? We're not negative 8 feet apart. We're 8 feet apart always, no matter which way we're looking at it. Then additive inverse is just a fancy word for opposite. Any number is opposite. So when we go down to absolute value here, we know the symbol for absolute value now is 2 parallel lines that are vertical, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then to find the value of absolute value, you basically take whatever is inside those 2 vertical parallel lines and find out how far away it is from 0. So letter A. 2 is 2 from 0. Negative 7 is how far from the number 0 on a number line. And so on and so forth. We got fancy and we use the variable. So we don't know what G is. We just know that the absolute value of negative G is going to be G places from 0, right?
Yes.
Just like the absolute value of positive G is going to be G places from 0. Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. And then we went down and we started doing some equations with an absolute value, and you learned that absolute value should be treated like parentheses. So you solved 6 minus 4, which is 2. And then you actually kept the absolute value signs because you still have to calculate the absolute value of 2, which is going to be 2. Letter G right here, same thing. We calculated what 3 minus 12 was, and then we calculated the absolute value of that result. Letter H, things got a little trickier down here in letter H. It was just like order of operations. We treated these absolute value markers like parentheses. So we did 11 minus 3, which was 8, right? Rewrote the entire problem, so we rewrote all of this. And then we solved for the absolute value of 8. What's the absolute value of 8? 8. Do we need to keep this negative here?
Yes.
Yes. And then we rewrote everything afterwards. And so on and so forth until we came all the way down to the bottom, in which we found that our final problem was negative 8 plus 3, and we ended up with negative 5. So I know I told you absolute value is always positive, but when solving an equation, like adding a couple of equations with an absolute value together, with maybe a negative out in front, which means opposite, might possibly get values that are below 0. But that's not really absolute value. We're just using absolute value to solve a bigger equation. Okay? And then this one was fun too. Letter I is an inequality. How far or which one is bigger? And if you first look at that without understanding absolute value, you're like, whoa, this is obviously going to be a lot smaller than the number 10, right? But we asked you to calculate the absolute value. So we basically want to know, is this further from 0 than this? And is negative 6 minus 5, or is the absolute value of negative 6 minus 5 further from 0 than the number 10?
Yes.
Yes, because the absolute value is 11, and 11 is definitely bigger than 10. Questions?
No.